As the room grows quieter, you can allow the day to loosen its hold on you. There is nowhere else you need to be, and nothing important you need to solve right now. These gentle ideas about happiness can simply pass through your mind, like warm light moving across a quiet wall. You do not need to remember every detail. You can listen for as long as you like, while your breathing settles into its own comfortable rhythm. Happiness is often imagined as a bright and powerful emotion, but much of everyday happiness is surprisingly quiet. It may feel more like ease, safety, interest, or a gentle sense that life is manageable. The brain does not create one single feeling called happiness. Instead, many systems work together, shaping pleasure, motivation, connection, calmness, and meaning. This is why two happy moments can feel completely different. Laughing with a friend may feel energetic, while resting beside an open window may feel peaceful and almost still. Scientists sometimes distinguish between pleasure and deeper well-being. Pleasure often comes from an enjoyable moment, while well-being can include purpose, belonging, and satisfaction with life as a whole. Both forms matter, and neither needs to be dramatic. A meaningful life can contain excitement, but it can also contain long stretches of ordinary calm. The human brain naturally pays close attention to change. A new experience often feels stronger because the mind has not yet become familiar with it. Over time, many pleasant changes become part of the background. A new home, a new possession, or a new routine may gradually feel normal. This process is sometimes called adaptation. It does not mean that people become ungrateful, but that the nervous system is designed to notice what is new. Because of adaptation, small variations can refresh familiar pleasures. A different walking route, a new cup of tea, or a quiet conversation in an unusual place may awaken attention again. Attention plays an important role in happiness. An experience can only fully affect us when some part of the mind notices it. A warm room may bring comfort without conscious thought. Yet when attention gently rests on that warmth, the feeling may become richer and more memorable. This helps explain why gratitude practices can sometimes improve well-being. They guide attention towards supportive parts of life that the brain might otherwise overlook. Gratitude does not require pretending that everything is perfect. It simply allows pleasant or meaningful details to share space with whatever is difficult. A person might feel tired and still appreciate a soft pillow. They might feel uncertain and still notice the kindness of someone nearby. Mixed emotions are normal. The brain can hold sadness and gratitude, worry and affection, or tiredness and contentment at the same time. Happiness does not always replace difficult emotions. Sometimes it quietly exists beside them. There is no need to hold on to every detail. You can let these ideas drift past you, while the story continues softly in the background. Social connection is one of the most consistent influences on human well-being. The nervous system developed in a world where safety often depended on other people. Even simple signs of connection can affect the body. A familiar voice, a gentle expression, or the presence of someone trusted may reduce feelings of threat. This does not mean that happiness requires constant company. Solitude can also be deeply restorative, especially when it is chosen rather than imposed. Healthy solitude gives the mind fewer social signals to interpret. It can create space for reflection, imagination, and quiet recovery. The balance between connection and solitude differs from person to person. Some people restore their energy through conversation, while others need long periods of silence. Neither pattern is more correct. Well-being often grows when people understand their own rhythms, rather than forcing themselves into someone else's. Kindness can also influence happiness in subtle ways. Helping another person may strengthen feelings of usefulness, connection, and shared humanity. The action does not need to be large. Holding a door, sending a thoughtful message, or listening carefully may be enough to create a small emotional warmth. The brain often responds not only to receiving support, but also to giving it. Cooperation has been part of human survival for a very long time. This may be one reason generous actions can feel rewarding. They remind the nervous system that a person belongs within a network of mutual care. However, kindness is most sustainable when it includes healthy boundaries. Constantly giving without rest can lead to exhaustion rather than happiness. Rest is not the opposite of generosity. It is often what allows generosity to remain gentle and sincere. Sleep itself has a close relationship with emotional well-being. After insufficient sleep, the brain may react more strongly to negative events. Small frustrations can feel larger, while pleasant experiences may be harder to notice. The world has not necessarily changed, but the rested brain and the tired brain interpret it differently. During sleep, the brain continues processing emotional experiences. Memories are reorganized, and some of the intensity surrounding them may soften with time. This is one reason a difficult situation can feel slightly more manageable after a good night of rest. The problem may remain, but the mind may meet it with greater balance. If your eyes feel heavy, you can let them close. Nothing in this story requires effort from you. Movement can also shape mood, even when it is gentle. Physical activity changes circulation, body temperature, attention, and many chemical signals within the nervous system. Exercise is often described in energetic terms, but it does not need to be intense. Walking slowly, stretching, or moving through a quiet garden can support emotional balance. Part of the benefit may come from the movement itself. Another part may come from being outdoors, completing a small goal, or briefly stepping away from repetitive thoughts. The mind and body are not separate systems taking turns. They constantly exchange information, moment by moment. Posture, breathing, hunger, temperature, and physical tension can all influence emotional experience. Sometimes, what feels like a mysterious mood has several small bodily causes. Happiness can therefore begin with simple forms of care: food, water, rest, warmth, and a sense of safety create the conditions in which positive feelings are easier to experience. This does not make happiness mechanical. It simply means that the emotional mind is supported by a living body. Natural environments may also encourage calmer states of attention. Trees, water, clouds, and open landscapes contain patterns that are varied without always demanding a response. In busy environments, the brain must repeatedly decide what deserves attention. In nature, attention can sometimes move more freely, without the same sense of urgency. Even images and sounds of nature may have a gentle effect. Rainfall, moving leaves, distant waves, and birdsong can create a feeling of space around the mind. Perhaps this is why people often describe peaceful places using natural images. A quiet forest or a slow river gives the imagination somewhere soft to rest. For now, you can imagine a wide path beneath evening trees. The air is cool. The light is fading. And there is no need to reach the end. The path continues at an easy pace, carrying us toward more quiet discoveries about the science of happiness. The experience of happiness is closely connected to expectation. The brain is constantly comparing what happens with what it predicted would happen. When an outcome is better than expected, even in a small way, it can create a pleasant sense of surprise. A delayed train arriving early may feel more satisfying than an ordinary train arriving exactly on time. This is one reason anticipation can be so powerful. Looking forward to a peaceful meal, a favorite walk, or a familiar voice may bring pleasure before the event begins. Sometimes anticipation lasts longer than the experience itself. The mind gently rehearses what may happen, creating many small moments of enjoyment along the way. Yet expectations can also become heavy when they grow too precise. A pleasant event may feel disappointing if reality does not match the image created beforehand. Flexible expectations leave more room for surprise. They allow the moment to be different without automatically feeling wrong. The brain often enjoys progress more than completion. Moving toward a meaningful goal can provide a steady sense of direction. This is why small steps may feel encouraging, even when the final result is far away. Each step offers evidence that movement is possible. Large goals can sometimes overwhelm the nervous system because they contain too many uncertain parts. Smaller goals create clearer signals and more frequent moments of completion. Making the bed, answering one message, or preparing something for tomorrow can bring a modest but real feeling of order. These moments may seem too ordinary to count as happiness, yet much of a stable life is built from quiet experiences of competence. There is no need to follow every idea. You can allow the words to move past you, slowly and without effort. Curiosity can also support well-being. When the mind becomes curious, uncertainty may feel less threatening and more like an opening. A curious person does not always need an immediate answer. Sometimes the gentle act of wondering is enough to make the world feel larger. Learning something new can bring pleasure because the brain is sensitive to patterns. Discovering how pieces fit together can create a subtle feeling of satisfaction. This pleasure is not limited to formal study. It can appear while recognizing a bird call, understanding a recipe, or noticing how light changes through the seasons. A quiet sense of wonder may have similar effects. Vast skies, old trees, music, and scientific ideas can briefly shift attention away from everyday concerns. Researchers often describe this feeling as awe. Awe can make personal worries seem smaller without making them unimportant. It may also increase a sense of connection to something beyond the individual self. That larger frame can feel calming and spacious. Awe does not require standing beneath a mountain or looking through a telescope. It can arise from watching clouds gather or seeing a sleeping child breathe. The ordinary world contains many forms of quiet vastness. They become visible when attention slows down enough to notice them. Memory also shapes happiness in unusual ways. The experience of an event and the memory of it are related, but they are not identical. The mind does not store every second with equal detail. It often remembers the strongest moment and the way an experience ended. A long day may therefore be remembered warmly because of one meaningful conversation near the end. A brief, difficult moment can also influence how an otherwise pleasant event is recalled. This does not mean memory is unreliable in a useless way. Memory is selective because the brain is trying to preserve what may matter later. Gentle endings can leave a lasting impression. This may be why a calm evening ritual can soften the memory of a demanding day. A warm drink, dim light, or a familiar book can signal that activity is coming to a close. Over time, the brain may learn to associate these cues with safety and rest. Rituals reduce the number of decisions the mind must make. Their familiar sequence can create a feeling of stability. Even very simple rituals may become comforting. Closing the curtains, washing a cup, or placing a phone aside can mark the beginning of quiet. If your breathing has become slower, there's nothing you need to change. The body often knows how to settle when it is given enough time. Music can influence happiness because the brain is remarkably responsive to rhythm and expectation. A melody creates patterns, then gently confirms or surprises them. Familiar music may bring comfort because the listener knows what is coming. Unfamiliar music may create curiosity because the pattern is still unfolding. Music can also carry memory. A few notes may bring back a place, a season, or the emotional atmosphere of another time. These memories are not always clear images. Sometimes they return as a quiet feeling with no obvious story attached. Singing with others may be especially powerful because breathing, timing, and attention become coordinated. People briefly share the same rhythm. Similar coordination can happen during conversation, dancing, or walking beside someone. Human bodies often begin to match one another in small ways. Speech patterns, gestures, and even breathing may become subtly synchronized. This can strengthen feelings of closeness and ease. Laughter is another form of shared rhythm. It often spreads through groups before anyone has time to think about it. Although laughter is linked with humor, it can also signal safety and connection. People laugh more often with others than when they are alone. A shared laugh tells the nervous system that, for this moment, the social environment is friendly. Smiling can carry similar information, though its meaning depends on the situation. A genuine warm expression can help two people feel less guarded. The face is part of the body's communication system. Tiny changes around the eyes and mouth can reveal comfort, interest, or trust. Humans become skilled at reading these signals very early in life. Much of this social understanding happens automatically. The feeling of being understood may be especially important for happiness. It reduces the need to constantly explain or defend one's inner experience. Sometimes being understood does not require advice. Quiet attention can be enough. The most comforting response may simply communicate that another person is present and willing to listen. Touch can also support feelings of connection when it is welcome and safe. A hand held gently or a calm embrace may reduce physical tension. The skin contains many kinds of sensory receptors. Some respond especially well to slow, gentle contact. These signals travel into systems involved with emotion and social bonding. The experience can feel reassuring before the mind forms any words about it. Of course, people differ greatly in how much touch they enjoy. Comfort depends on trust, context, culture, and personal preference. Well-being grows more easily when these differences are respected. Safety includes the freedom to choose closeness or distance. The story will keep moving softly in the background. You can listen closely, or you can begin to drift. Food can bring happiness through several pathways at once. Taste, smell, texture, memory, and social meaning all combine during a meal. Smell is especially connected with memory. A familiar scent can return the mind to another place with surprising speed. Fresh bread, citrus peel, warm spices, or tea may awaken memories that have been quiet for years. The pleasure of food is also shaped by hunger. The same meal can feel very different depending on what the body needs. When hunger is strong, the first bites may feel especially rewarding. As the body becomes satisfied, attention gradually shifts away. This changing pleasure helps guide eating without requiring careful calculation. The body and brain communicate through many signals before, during, and after a meal. Sharing food adds another layer. Meals can create time for conversation, cooperation, and belonging. Across cultures, people use food to welcome guests, celebrate transitions, and care for those who are tired or unwell. The emotional meaning may become as important as the flavor. A simple dish prepared by someone familiar can feel deeply comforting. Pleasure is often strengthened by presence. Eating slowly enough to notice temperature, texture, and aroma can make a small meal feel fuller. The same principle applies to many ordinary experiences. Attention can deepen what is already there. Warm water, clean sheets, morning light, and a quiet chair may offer more comfort than the mind first realizes. Happiness sometimes depends less on adding something new and more on noticing what has become familiar. A familiar life can seem invisible because the brain is designed to detect change. Gentle attention makes the background visible again. This does not require intense concentration. A few seconds of noticing may be enough. The weight of a blanket, the sound of distant air, or the softness beneath your head can become part of the present moment. And as the night continues, these small signals of safety can gather around you. Nothing dramatic needs to happen. The mind can rest inside ordinary comfort, while the quiet science of happiness continues to unfold. Time has a strong influence on how happiness feels. A pleasant moment can seem brief while it is happening, yet remain meaningful in memory for many years. The brain does not measure emotional time with perfect accuracy. Engaging experiences may pass quickly, while anxious waiting can feel unusually long. This is partly because attention changes the way duration is perceived. When the mind is absorbed, it tracks fewer separate moments. Psychologists often describe deep absorption as flow. During flow, attention becomes fully involved in an activity that feels challenging but manageable. A person may experience flow while painting, gardening, solving a puzzle, playing music, or shaping wood with careful hands. The activity provides clear feedback, and each small action leads naturally into the next. Self-conscious thoughts often become quieter. Flow is not always peaceful in the usual sense. It can require concentration and effort, yet still leave the mind feeling refreshed. part of its pleasure may come from temporary freedom from constant self-evaluation. The person is simply involved in what they are doing. Everyday life offers many gentle versions of this state. Folding clothes carefully or arranging a shelf can sometimes create a quiet rhythm. Repeated movements reduce uncertainty. The hands know what to do, and the mind can rest inside the pattern. This may be why crafts are comforting for many people. Knitting, drawing, baking, and repairing small objects all combine attention with visible progress. The finished object matters, but the process can be just as rewarding. Each movement creates a small sense of order. You do not need to concentrate on these words. They can remain nearby while your thoughts begin to soften. Happiness is also shaped by comparison. The brain rarely judges an experience in complete isolation. A warm room feels warmer after cold air. A quiet street seems especially peaceful after a crowded station. Comparison helps the nervous system interpret change, but social comparison can sometimes make contentment more difficult. People often compare their private uncertainty with the polished appearance of someone else's life. The comparison is incomplete from the beginning. The mind sees another person's visible success, but not always their fatigue, doubt, or ordinary disappointments. This can create the illusion that happiness belongs more naturally to other people. Yet every human life contains changing moods. Even people with stable well-being experience boredom, frustration, grief, and worry. Emotional health does not mean remaining cheerful at all times. It often means recovering gently and adapting without losing connection to life. Reducing unnecessary comparison may allow personal values to become clearer. A good life can then be measured by what genuinely matters to the individual. For one person, success may mean exploration and movement. For another, it may mean stability, family, or unhurried mornings. Values give direction without promising constant pleasure. They help explain why some difficult efforts can still feel deeply worthwhile. Caring for someone, learning a demanding skill, or building a meaningful project may involve discomfort. Yet the discomfort can exist alongside purpose. The mind often tolerates effort more easily when it understands why the effort matters. Meaning is not a single feeling located in one part of the brain. It emerges from memory, identity, relationships, and expectations about the future. People often find meaning by connecting present actions with a larger story. Today becomes part of something that began before and will continue later. This story does not need to be grand. Raising a garden, preserving family traditions, or becoming dependable to a friend can provide lasting direction. Small responsibilities can strengthen well-being when they feel chosen and manageable. They remind a person that their actions have consequences in the world. Too much responsibility can become overwhelming, but too little can sometimes create emptiness. The nervous system often benefits from a balanced sense of usefulness. The feeling of being needed can be comforting. It suggests that a person occupies a meaningful place within the lives around them. Pets can create this feeling in a gentle form. Feeding an animal, opening a door, or preparing a familiar resting place becomes part of a shared routine. Animals also offer connection without requiring complex conversation. Their presence can make a room feel inhabited and warm. Many pets respond strongly to predictable voices, movements, and schedules. Humans, too, are often comforted by the same quiet repetition. Familiar routines reduce uncertainty and free attention for other things. They tell the brain what is likely to happen next. This is one reason disrupted routines can feel strangely tiring. The mind must make more decisions and monitor more possibilities. Creating a few stable patterns can bring calm during uncertain periods. A regular meal, walk, or bedtime sequence may become a small island of predictability. There is no need to build a perfect routine. Even one familiar action can become a reassuring signal. Perhaps the evening lamp is always turned on at the same hour. Perhaps a cup is placed beside the bed before the room grows dark. Over time, these actions gather emotional meaning. They begin to carry the memory of many previous safe evenings. The brain learns through association. When a neutral signal repeatedly appears beside comfort, it may eventually become comforting itself. This process helps explain why certain songs, scents, and places can change mood so quickly. A particular hallway may feel peaceful because it belongs to an old memory. A certain soap may recall a childhood home. The response can happen before the memory becomes clear. The body recognizes the pattern first. Some emotional memories are stored in fragments rather than complete stories. A sound, texture, or temperature may awaken only a faint impression. These impressions are not always dramatic. They may appear as a soft familiarity that is difficult to explain. Nostalgia often contains this mixture of warmth and distance. It reminds the mind of something meaningful that can no longer be experienced in exactly the same way. Although nostalgia can include sadness, it may also strengthen feelings of identity and connection. Remembering earlier versions of ourselves can reveal continuity. The person listening now is linked with every age they have already been. Old photographs, familiar streets, and remembered voices become bridges across time. They show that life is made of many changing chapters, none of which remain forever. This can be bittersweet, but it can also make ordinary moments feel more valuable. A quiet breakfast or a walk beside someone may later become a treasured memory, even if it feels simple today. Happiness is not always recognized while it is happening. Sometimes the mind understands its value only afterward. This is why deliberate attention can matter. It gives the present moment a better chance of being noticed before it becomes the past. You might notice the temperature of the room now, or the way the bed supports your body. There is no need to describe the sensation. Simply noticing is enough. The body contains its own forms of quiet pleasure. Warmth, stretching, relief from thirst, and the release of tension can all create small rewards. Relief is especially powerful because it follows discomfort. The contrast makes the new state easier to feel. Removing tight shoes after a long day may bring more pleasure than putting on comfortable shoes in the morning. The brain responds strongly to the ending of strain. It marks the change from effort towards safety. This may be one reason evening feels comforting to many people. Tasks begin to close, lights soften, and demands gradually become fewer. The world does not disappear, but its edges become less sharp. Rest can then feel like returning rather than stopping. The body recognizes a familiar place where vigilance is no longer necessary. Safety itself is an important foundation of happiness. Without enough safety, the nervous system remains focused on protection. When safety increases, attention can move toward curiosity, connection, play, and creativity. These states are easier to access when the body is not preparing for danger. A locked door, a trusted companion, or a predictable environment may quietly support emotional ease. Much of this support remains unnoticed because safety is often experienced as the absence of disturbance. Nothing is happening, and that nothing can feel deeply peaceful. Boredom sometimes appears in this quiet space. Although boredom is uncomfortable, it is not always harmful. It may signal that attention is searching for meaningful engagement. The restless feeling encourages exploration. Without occasional boredom, the mind might have less reason to invent, wander, or discover something new. Creative ideas often emerge when external stimulation becomes low. The brain begins combining memories in looser ways. This can happen during showers, walks, or moments before sleep. Attention relaxes, and distant thoughts begin to meet. Not every wandering thought becomes useful. Yet the freedom to wander is part of a flexible mind. Daydreaming can support planning, imagination, and emotional understanding. It gives the mind room to simulate possibilities. At night, these possibilities may become softer and less organized. Thoughts drift without needing to reach a conclusion. You can allow that drifting now. The story does not need to hold your full attention. The brain also finds satisfaction in solving small uncertainties. A question creates tension, and an answer brings release. This pattern appears in puzzles, stories, jokes, and music. The mind anticipates resolution and enjoys the moment when pieces connect. Yet unanswered questions can also be pleasant when they inspire wonder rather than fear. Looking at the stars may create questions too large to solve, but the uncertainty can still feel beautiful. The difference often depends on whether the mind feels safe. Safe uncertainty can become curiosity. Happiness may therefore include a balance between familiarity and surprise. Too much sameness can feel dull, while too much unpredictability can feel exhausting. A stable life with small variations often suits the nervous system well. The same home can contain a new book. The same path can look different after rain. The same evening sky never arranges its clouds in exactly the same way. These small changes give attention something fresh, without removing the comfort of what is known. And as this quiet journey continues, the mind can rest between the familiar and the new. There is still more to discover, but nothing needs to be hurried. Happiness is influenced not only by what happens, but also by how the mind interprets what happens. Two people can experience the same quiet afternoon and feel differently about it. One may notice freedom, while the other notices emptiness. The event remains similar, but the meaning changes. The brain is always placing experience inside a larger personal story. This process is sometimes called appraisal. It is the mind's way of deciding whether something is helpful, threatening, disappointing, or worthwhile. These interpretations often happen quickly. They can shape emotion before a person has time to examine them. Yet interpretations are not always fixed. With time, the meaning of an event can soften or change. A difficult transition may later be remembered as the beginning of something valuable. An old disappointment may eventually become part of a story about resilience, learning, or unexpected direction. This does not mean that painful events are secretly pleasant. It means the mind can continue building meaning around them. Human beings are remarkably capable of revising their inner stories. Sometimes this happens through conversation. Speaking with someone trusted can make a confusing experience feel more organized. Language gives shape to emotion. Feelings that seemed formless can become easier to understand once they are named. The name does not remove the feeling, but it can reduce uncertainty. Saying that one feels tired, lonely, restless, or disappointed may create more clarity than simply feeling wrong. Emotional vocabulary gives the mind more precise tools. A person who can distinguish irritation from fear may respond differently to each one. This precision can support well-being because different emotions often need different kinds of care. Fatigue may need rest. Loneliness may need connection. Overstimulation may need silence. The nervous system communicates through broad sensations, while reflection helps translate them. There is no need to translate anything now. You can simply let the words continue at their own quiet pace. Self-compassion is another gentle influence on happiness. It involves responding to personal difficulty with some of the patience that might be offered to another person. Many people speak to themselves more harshly than they would speak to a friend. The mind may believe criticism creates improvement. Sometimes it only creates tension and exhaustion. Supportive inner language does not mean ignoring mistakes. It means correcting them without adding unnecessary cruelty. A calm mind often learns more effectively than a frightened one. When failure is treated as information rather than a verdict, curiosity can remain present. The question changes from what is wrong with me to what happened here. This small shift may reduce shame and create room for adjustment. Self-compassion also includes recognizing that difficulty is part of ordinary human life. Everyone misunderstands, loses patience, misses opportunities, and feels uncertain. Remembering this can reduce the sense of being uniquely flawed. The experience remains personal, but it no longer feels completely isolating. This is one reason shared stories can be comforting. Hearing that others have struggled in similar ways reminds the nervous system that imperfection is common. A quiet sense of common humanity can make difficult feelings easier to carry. It does not erase responsibility. It simply places responsibility inside kindness. Kindness and accountability can exist together. A person can regret an action and still believe they are capable of change. The brain remains adaptable throughout life. Old habits can be strong, but repeated new experiences can gradually reshape familiar pathways. This ability is often described as neuroplasticity. The term sounds technical, but the basic idea is gentle and hopeful. What the brain practices repeatedly can become easier over time. Attention, interpretation, movement, and social behavior all leave traces. A single calm evening may not transform a life, but many calm evenings can create a pattern. A single kind thought may feel small, yet repeated kindness can become more available. The nervous system learns from repetition. This is why habits often matter more than rare bursts of motivation. Motivation changes from day to day. A habit can continue quietly even when enthusiasm is low. The most sustainable habits are often simple enough to survive imperfect days. A 5-minute walk may continue when a longer exercise plan feels impossible. Reading one page may preserve a connection with learning. Sending one short message may maintain a friendship during a busy week. Small actions can seem insignificant when viewed alone. Across months and years, they may shape the texture of a life. Happiness often grows through accumulation rather than sudden arrival. Many pleasant moments are too small to be remembered individually. Together, they create a general sense that life contains warmth. A shared breakfast, clean clothes, familiar music, and sunlight on the floor may slowly become emotional background. The mind may not celebrate each moment, but the body still receives them. This background can act as a reserve during more difficult periods. Positive experiences do not prevent sadness, but they can remind the nervous system that sadness is not the only possible state. The memory of safety can help the body return toward balance. Emotional balance is not a perfectly still condition. It is more like a gentle movement around a familiar center. People move away from that center through stress, excitement, grief, or fatigue. With enough support, they often move back again. This return is sometimes called regulation. Regulation can happen through thinking, but it also happens through the body. Slow breathing, warmth, movement, rest, and familiar surroundings can all send calming signals. Other people can help regulate emotion as well. A steady voice may make breathing slower. A calm presence may reduce the urge to remain alert. Infants depend heavily on this shared regulation. Adults remain responsive to it, even though the process becomes more subtle. We never become completely separate from the emotional influence of others. A tense room can make the body guarded. A relaxed room can make it easier to soften. This is why atmosphere matters. Lighting, sound, temperature, and pace can shape emotional experience without demanding attention. Soft light tends to signal evening and reduced activity. Harsh noise can keep the nervous system scanning for change. A quiet, predictable environment gives the mind fewer reasons to interrupt itself. The room around you may already be doing some of this work. The stable surface beneath you, the familiar sounds, and the surrounding darkness may all be offering simple information. For this moment, there is less to monitor. The body can reduce its effort little by little. You can let the facts drift past you now. The story will remain gentle even if you stop following it closely. Happiness also has a relationship with autonomy. People often feel better when they have some control over their choices. Even small choices can matter, especially when larger circumstances cannot be changed. Choosing what to eat, when to rest, or which task to begin first can restore a modest sense of agency. Agency tells the mind that action is possible. A complete absence of control can feel stressful, because the nervous system cannot predict how behavior will affect outcomes. Yet too many choices can also become tiring. When every small decision requires attention, mental energy is gradually consumed. This is sometimes called decision fatigue. Routines, defaults, and simple plans can reduce this burden. They preserve energy for choices that matter more. A person may wear similar clothes each day or prepare the same breakfast because familiarity feels easier. There is no failure in reducing unnecessary decisions. Simplicity can be a form of care. Choice feels most satisfying when it is meaningful, but not overwhelming. The mind often prefers a few clear possibilities over an endless field. This balance between freedom and structure appears in many areas of life. Children explore best when they feel safe. Adults often create best when there is enough openness and enough direction. Too much structure can feel restrictive, while too little can feel confusing. A gentle framework gives imagination somewhere to begin. Play depends on the same balance. Play is not only for children. Adults also benefit from activities that have no urgent practical purpose. Games, humor, music, creative experiments, and curious conversation can all create playful states. During play, mistakes become less threatening. The mind tests possibilities without demanding perfection. This freedom may support creativity and emotional flexibility. Play also changes the experience of time. A playful hour may pass quickly because attention remains absorbed. The body may feel lighter even when movement is involved. Many forms of play include repetition, surprise, and social connection. These are all patterns the brain finds rewarding. A simple card game can contain anticipation, memory, and laughter. Drawing a ball can create rhythm and shared attention. Doodling on paper can turn empty space into a place of possibility. The result does not need to be useful. The value may exist entirely in the experience. Modern life often rewards productivity, but the nervous system does not measure every moment by output. Some of its healthiest states are quiet, inefficient, and unrecorded. Looking through a window may accomplish nothing visible. Yet the mind may be sorting memories, releasing tension, or simply recovering. Recovery is active in ways that are easy to miss. During rest, many systems continue repairing and reorganizing. The body regulates hormones, restores tissues, and adjusts immune activity. The brain reviews information and changes connections. Stillness is not emptiness. It is a different kind of work. This is true during waking rest, as well as sleep. A few minutes without demands can allow mental activity to settle. Not every silence needs to be filled. The absence of stimulation can become a soft space around thought. Some people find silence uncomfortable at first. The mind may produce worries, unfinished plans, or old conversations. With time, silence can become more familiar. The thoughts may still appear, but they no longer require immediate response. They can be noticed and allowed to pass. A thought is an event in the mind, not always an instruction. The brain produces countless thoughts each day. Some are useful, some are repetitive, and some are simply strange. Happiness does not require controlling every thought. It may require learning which thoughts deserve attention. This is similar to listening in a busy room. Many voices may be present, but only one conversation needs to be followed. At night, even that conversation can become quieter. There's less need to decide what every thought means. The mind can loosen its grip on interpretation. The body can continue breathing without supervision. The heart continues its steady work. Countless quiet processes are already carrying you towards sleep. And somewhere beneath all the thinking, the nervous system is still capable of recognizing comfort. A soft surface, a safe room, a familiar night. These simple conditions may not feel like happiness in the bright, obvious sense, yet they belong to the same quiet family of well-being. Contentment often arrives without announcement. It may be present as the absence of urgency. It may feel like nothing more is needed for this particular moment. The world remains unfinished. Life remains complicated, and still, for a little while, the body can rest. That small permission is part of the science of happiness too. The sense of contentment often depends on enoughness. The mind is very good at noticing what is missing. This ability helps people search for food, shelter, information, and social support. Yet the same system can keep attention moving toward the next unfinished thing. A completed task is quickly replaced by another. A new possession soon becomes familiar. The feeling of enoughness interrupts this movement for a while. It does not claim that life is complete. It simply recognizes that this moment may already contain what is needed. Enough warmth, enough safety, enough time to rest. This recognition can be difficult in environments built around constant comparison and improvement. There is always another skill to learn, another place to visit, or another version of the self to become. Growth can be meaningful, but endless self-improvement can quietly suggest that the present self is never acceptable. Well-being often needs both movement and acceptance. A person can hope to change while still respecting who they are now. These positions are not opposites. A garden can be cared for because it is valued, not because it is disliked. In the same way, personal growth may feel gentler when it begins with care rather than rejection. The nervous system responds differently to invitation and threat. Harsh pressure can produce action, but it also consumes energy. Encouragement may create slower progress, yet it is often easier to sustain. This is true in learning as well. People tend to explore more freely when mistakes do not lead to humiliation. A safe learning environment keeps curiosity alive. The brain can test ideas, notice errors, and try again without becoming overwhelmed. This flexible state is closely related to happiness. It allows a person to remain engaged with life without demanding perfect outcomes. Perfection is often imagined as peaceful, but the pursuit of it can create constant tension. Every result becomes something to inspect. Every flaw becomes evidence that rest is not yet allowed. In reality, most satisfying experiences contain small imperfections. A handmade object may have uneven edges. A conversation may include pauses and misunderstood words. A memorable trip may contain rain, delays, or wrong turns. These irregularities can make an experience feel more human and distinct. Perfect repetition is easy to forget. The unusual detail often becomes the story remembered later. There is no need for this moment to be perfect either. You do not need to listen in the right way. You do not need to relax on command. Rest can arrive unevenly. The mind may settle, wander, and return several times. That movement is natural. The ocean does not become still all at once. Waves continue near the surface even when deeper water remains calm. Thoughts can move in the same way. A few active ideas do not mean the whole mind is restless. Beneath them, slower processes may already be preparing for sleep. The brain gradually changes its patterns. As wakefulness fades, attention becomes less connected to the outside world. Images and memories begin to combine more freely. The clear borders between ideas may soften. This transition can feel strange, but it is a familiar journey repeated every night. The mind does not need to understand sleep in order to enter it. It only needs enough opportunity and enough safety. A regular sleep schedule can support this process because the body keeps time through internal rhythms. These rhythms respond to light, activity, meals, and temperature. Morning light helps signal wakefulness. Dim evening light helps the body prepare for night. The change is gradual rather than immediate. Several systems shift together over many hours. The body becomes slightly cooler as sleep approaches. Alertness decreases, and the desire for stillness grows. These changes can influence mood as well. Emotions may feel heavier late at night because mental resources are lower. A problem considered at midnight can seem more permanent than the same problem considered after rest. This is not always because the problem has changed. A tired brain has fewer resources for flexibility and perspective. Morning often restores a wider view. Time, light, food, and sleep quietly alter the emotional landscape. This is another reason happiness should not be judged from a single difficult hour. A temporary state can feel complete while it is happening, yet moods are always moving. They respond to biology, memory, surroundings, and events. Even an intense emotion cannot remain exactly the same forever. The body gradually changes it. Attention shifts. New information arrives. The emotion may return, but it returns into a slightly different moment. This natural movement is one source of resilience. Resilience does not mean remaining unaffected. It means that the system can bend, recover, and reorganize. Trees offer a simple image of this. A branch moves in strong wind rather than resisting every motion. Its flexibility protects it. Human resilience also depends on flexibility. A person may adjust expectations, seek support, rest, or choose a new direction. These responses are not signs of weakness. They are ways the mind protects what matters. Resilience is rarely created alone. Relationships, community, resources, health, and opportunity all influence how easily recovery can happen. This is important because personal strength is only part of the story. A supportive environment can reduce the amount of strength a person must use. Kindness from others can become borrowed stability. Practical help can create emotional space. A meal delivered during a difficult week may do more than satisfy hunger. It can communicate that someone noticed. Being noticed has deep social meaning. It tells the nervous system that a person is not entirely alone with their needs. Small acknowledgments can have lasting effects. Remembering a name, asking a sincere question, or checking in after a difficult event may strengthen trust. Trust develops through repeated evidence. One dramatic promise is often less powerful than many small, reliable actions. The brain watches for consistency. Does this person return? Do their words match their behavior? Is the environment safe in ordinary moments? Trust grows when the answers remain steady over time. Once trust is established, the mind can reduce some of its monitoring. Silence becomes less uncomfortable. Uncertainty becomes easier to tolerate. The relationship does not need constant proof. This quiet security is closely related to happiness. It is not excitement, but it creates room for ease. Secure relationships allow people to explore, rest, and express themselves more freely. They provide a stable emotional base. The idea begins early in life, but it remains relevant throughout adulthood. Knowing that support exists can change how difficult tasks feel. The support may not even need to be present in the room. Remembering a trusted person can sometimes reduce stress. The brain carries internal models of relationships. A familiar voice can be imagined. A past kindness can be remembered. These inner representations may offer comfort when someone is physically far away. In this way, connection can continue across distance and time. Letters, photographs, and saved messages can become reminders of social safety. They preserve evidence that a bond exists. The emotional value may be much larger than the object itself. Objects often become meaningful because of the relationships attached to them. A warm blanket, an old mug, or a simple piece of jewelry may carry years of memory. Their market value may be small. Their personal value may be impossible to replace. Happiness is frequently connected to these layers of meaning. The object is pleasant, but the story around it deepens the feeling. Humans live not only in physical environments, but also in symbolic ones. Places, objects, and rituals. Gather associations. A kitchen can represent care. A desk can represent effort. A doorway can represent returning home. Home itself is more than a location. It is often a pattern of familiarity. The placement of objects, the sound of pipes, and the quality of evening light become known. Familiarity reduces uncertainty. The body learns where the floor changes, which doors make noise, and how the room feels at night. This knowledge requires little conscious attention. It allows movement to become easier. A familiar environment can therefore feel restful, even when it is simple. Luxury is not required for comfort. Predictability, safety, and personal meaning often matter more. A room becomes welcoming through repeated peaceful experiences. Each quiet evening adds another layer. The mind learns that this place is associated with slowing down. Over time, entering the space may begin to soften the body automatically. This is why dedicated rest spaces can be useful. They create consistent signals. The same chair, blanket, lamp, or scent may become part of a learned pattern. The signal does not force relaxation. It simply makes relaxation more likely. You may already have signals like these around you now. The shape of the darkness may be familiar. The sounds beyond the room may belong to many previous nights. Your body has met this hour before and knows something about what comes next. Happiness also appears in moments of recognition. Seeing a familiar face in an unfamiliar place can create sudden warmth. Hearing your language after a long absence can feel grounding. Recognition tells the brain that part of the environment is known. Known things are easier to predict. This can reduce effort and increase comfort. Even repetition in stories can be soothing for this reason. A familiar tale contains fewer surprises. The listener knows the emotional path and trusts the ending. Children often request the same story many times. Adults also return to familiar books, films, and music. The experience is not weakened by knowing what happens. Knowledge itself becomes part of the pleasure. The mind can notice details without worrying about uncertainty. Familiar media may be especially comforting during stressful periods. It offers a world that remains stable. Characters behave as remembered. Events unfold in the same order. The predictability creates a temporary shelter for attention. There is something similar in bedtime routines. The sequence becomes a quiet story. The body already knows. Lights dim. Movement slows. The room becomes cooler. The final tasks of the day are completed. Each step suggests that rest is approaching. The nervous system responds to patterns before conscious thought explains them. This learning can take time. It can also change. A new peaceful routine can gradually replace an older restless one. The first evenings may feel unfamiliar. Later, the sequence begins to carry its own comfort. Change becomes familiarity through repetition. This is true of many forms of happiness. A new friendship begins with uncertainty. A new home begins with strange sounds. A new skill begins with awkward effort. Over time, what was once unfamiliar becomes part of ordinary life. The emotional tone changes, effort decreases, trust grows. The mind creates a new background of safety. Some of the happiest changes become almost invisible in this way. A person may forget how difficult the beginning once felt. They simply live inside the comfort that repeated experience created. This quiet transformation is easy to overlook, yet it happens throughout life. The nervous system is always learning what can be trusted. It is always updating its sense of home. And tonight, it may be learning again that rest is possible. The words can continue without being followed. The room can remain quiet without needing your attention. There is nothing you need to complete before sleep. For now, enough has already happened. Enough thinking, enough listening, enough effort for one day. The next ideas can drift more slowly, while the night holds everything in place. Joy is often associated with intensity, but many positive emotions are much quieter. Contentment, affection, relief, interest. and calm satisfaction may not feel dramatic. They can pass almost unnoticed because they do not demand attention. The brain is especially sensitive to strong changes, and the sudden sound, bright light, or unexpected event quickly enters awareness. Quiet pleasure behaves differently. It may remain in the background, supporting the mind without interrupting it. This can make peaceful happiness difficult to recognize. A person may think nothing special is happening. Yet the body may be warm, the surroundings may feel safe, and the mind may be free from immediate pressure. These conditions create a subtle form of well-being. It is less like celebration and more like balance. Calm, positive states may also last longer because they require less energy. Excitement raises alertness. Contentment allows alertness to soften. Both can be pleasant, but they prepare the body for different kinds of action. Excitement encourages movement towards something. Contentment suggests that, for now, staying where you are is acceptable. This quiet message can be deeply restorative. It allows the nervous system to stop searching for a better moment. There is no need to search now. The words can simply pass through the room while your body remains still. Positive emotions may also broaden attention. When people feel safe and curious, they often notice more possibilities. Their thinking becomes slightly more flexible. A problem may have more than one solution. So, a stranger may seem less threatening. An unfamiliar activity may feel worth exploring. Fear tends to narrow attention toward immediate danger. Positive states can reopen the wider landscape. This does not mean that happiness makes people careless. It means that safety frees the mind to look beyond survival. Play, creativity, learning, and cooperation all benefit from this broader attention. A calm mind can combine ideas that seemed unrelated before. It can imagine outcomes without needing certainty. This flexibility may help explain why pleasant emotions support resilience over time. Each small positive experience can build resources. A conversation strengthens a relationship. Curiosity develops knowledge. Play improves flexibility. Rest restores energy. The benefit may continue after the pleasant feeling has faded. Happiness is therefore not only a reward, it can also prepare the mind for future difficulty. A peaceful afternoon may seem unproductive, yet it may restore patience for the following day. A shared joke may last only seconds. Still, it can strengthen the sense of connection between two people. A walk through trees may end quickly. Its calming effects may remain in the body for a while. Positive experiences leave traces. Some traces are remembered clearly. Others become part of a general emotional tone. The mind gathers evidence about what kind of world it lives in. Repeated care suggests that support is available. Repeated success suggests that effort can matter. Repeated rest suggests that tension does not last forever. These expectations influence future emotion. A person who expects some kindness may approach others differently. They may make more eye contact or speak with greater openness. Those actions can make connection more likely. In this way, expectations and experience can shape each other. The same process can happen with trust. A small, safe interaction makes the next interaction easier. Over time, the nervous system becomes less guarded. This change may be slow enough to remain unnoticed. Many important emotional shifts happen gradually. A person rarely wakes up feeling completely different. Instead, there may be slightly more ease in one conversation, a little less tension before a familiar task, a small moment of pleasure that lasts longer than before. Progress often appears in these quiet details. It does not always feel like progress while it is happening. This is why memory can be useful. Looking back over a longer period may reveal changes that were invisible from day to day. A difficult skill may now feel ordinary. A once unfamiliar place may now feel like home. A person who once felt distant may now feel trusted. The brain is always normalizing what it learns. Success can disappear into the background after it becomes familiar. This can make growth easy to underestimate. The mind notices what remains difficult more than what has become easy. Pausing to recognize adaptation can restore perspective. What feels normal today may once have required courage or patience. The present self is supported by many earlier efforts. Some were deliberate, others were simply repeated until they became natural. Learning to read, drive, cook, or comfort. Another person required gradual change. Eventually, the effort became quieter. The brain transferred parts of the task into automatic patterns. Automation saves mental energy. It allows complex actions to happen with less conscious control. This is useful, but it can also reduce appreciation. The easier an ability becomes, the less remarkable it may seem. Yet ordinary competence is one of the foundations of daily happiness. Knowing how to prepare a meal or navigate a familiar city creates freedom. Understanding a friend's humor creates intimacy. Recognizing the signs of fatigue allows earlier rest. These skills support life without announcing themselves. There is comfort in knowing what to do. Uncertainty requires attention. Familiar ability creates ease. This is one reason mastery can feel satisfying. Mastery does not mean perfection. It means gaining enough experience that a task begins to feel responsive. The hands know how firmly to hold the tool. The ear recognizes when the note is correct. The mind notices an error before it grows. This intimate knowledge develops through repetition. It may bring a quiet sense of partnership with the activity. A gardener begins to understand the soil. A baker learns how dough should feel. A musician senses the shape of a phrase before playing it. These forms of knowledge are partly verbal and partly physical. The body learns patterns that are difficult to explain. This embodied knowledge can feel grounding. It connects attention with movement and sensation. During such moments, thinking becomes less abstract. A person is here with the material in front of them. Wood, water, fabric, soil, sound, or light becomes the focus. The mind temporarily leaves distant worries. This return to direct experience can be calming. Worry often lives in imagined futures. Regret often lives in reconstructed pasts. Sensation belongs to the present. The present is usually smaller than the stories built around it. Right now, there may only be a room, a bed, and the steady movement of breathing. The rest of life still exists, but it does not all need to be experienced at once. Attention has limits. This limitation can be protective. Only a small part of the world enters awareness in any moment. The mind selects what seems important. At bedtime, the range can become narrower. The ceiling, the blanket, the quiet sounds nearby. This smaller world can feel manageable. The body does not need to solve tomorrow while lying in darkness. It only needs to move through this minute, then another minute. Sleep often arrives through this gradual reduction. The external world becomes less demanding. The internal world becomes less organized. Thoughts lose some of their sharpness. Language may begin to dissolve into images. This softening is not a failure of attention. It is the mind changing its state. You can allow the words to become less distinct. Their meaning does not need to remain clear. Happiness is also influenced by the way people experience time ahead. Hope creates a sense that future possibilities remain open. It does not require certainty that everything will go well. It only requires the belief that improvement is possible. Hope can coexist with difficulty. A person may recognize pain while still imagining a path through it. This combination supports persistence. Without any sense of possibility, effort becomes harder to sustain. Even a small future event can create hope. A planned meal. A message expected from a friend. The first warm day after winter. These modest expectations help connect the present with what comes next. They create small bridges across time. Anticipation can therefore function as emotional support. The future begins offering comfort before it arrives. Yet hope is most stable when it includes flexibility. A specific outcome may not happen exactly as imagined. A flexible hope can adjust while preserving direction. The destination may change. The deeper wish may remain. Someone hoping for belonging may find it in an unexpected group. Someone hoping for purpose may discover it through an unplanned responsibility. Human lives often develop through routes that were impossible to predict. Looking backward, people create stories that make these routes seem more orderly. In reality, many turning points began as accidents, delays, or small decisions. A conversation happened because someone arrived late. A friendship began because 2 seats were empty. A skill developed from an activity tried without much expectation. Chance plays a large role in life. This can feel unsettling, but it also means that not every good possibility must be planned. Some forms of happiness arrive indirectly. They appear while attention is focused elsewhere. A person goes outside for practical reasons and notices an extraordinary sunset. They begin a task reluctantly and discover they enjoy it. They help someone else and unexpectedly feel less alone. These moments cannot always be forced. They can only be allowed. Openness increases the chance of noticing them. The mind becomes less fixed on how happiness should look. It may then recognize forms it would otherwise miss. A peaceful day may not resemble a successful day. A meaningful relationship may not resemble the one imagined earlier. A satisfying life may be built from quieter materials than expected. Happiness often changes shape across different stages of life. What brings joy in childhood may differ from what brings ease later. Young people may seek novelty and movement. Older people may value emotional depth and familiar connection. These patterns are not universal, but priorities often shift with experience. Time begins to feel more precious. Attention may move toward what feels genuinely meaningful. Unnecessary conflict becomes less attractive. A smaller number of close relationships may become more valuable than a wider social circle. This does not mean curiosity disappears. It may simply become more selective. The mind learns which experiences leave lasting warmth. It also learns which forms of excitement create more fatigue than pleasure. Wisdom can involve recognizing these differences. It is not only the accumulation of facts, it is the gradual understanding of what deserves attention. Attention is one of the most limited resources in life. Where it goes, emotional experience often follows. Repeated attention strengthens some thoughts and allows others to fade. This does not mean people can simply choose happiness by thinking positively. Circumstances, health, relationships, and resources matter deeply. Yet within those limits, attention still shapes the texture of experience. It determines which details become vivid. A crowded day may contain one kind exchange. A difficult week may contain one restful hour. Noticing these moments does not deny the difficulty. It gives the mind a more complete picture. Reality usually contains more than one emotional truth. A person can be worried and grateful, lonely and hopeful, tired and proud, sad and still capable of enjoying warm sunlight. Emotional complexity is not confusion. It is part of being human. The mind does not need to choose one feeling and erase the rest. Several feelings can share the same inner space. They may rise and fade at different speeds. Some remain near the surface, Others become quiet background tones. Happiness may sometimes be one of those background tones. It does not always take the lead. It may simply soften the edges of the moment. A familiar voice can do this. So can a warm animal sleeping nearby. So can knowing that a task is finally finished. Relief is often one of the gentlest doors into happiness. The release of pressure allows the body to notice what was hidden beneath it. Shoulders lower, breathing deepens, attention widens again. Relief reminds the nervous system that effort has an ending. Not every demand continues forever. The day closes, the conversation ends. The journey reaches a place of rest. Humans need beginnings, but they also need endings. Completion gives shape to time. It allows the mind to place an experience in the past. Unfinished tasks often remain mentally active. They return as reminders because the brain is trying not to forget them. Writing something down can reduce this burden. The task still exists, but it no longer depends entirely on memory. The mind is allowed to release it temporarily. This is why simple lists can feel calming. They move unfinished thoughts into the external world. The paper holds them for a while. At night, even an imagined container may help. Tomorrow's concerns can be placed somewhere outside the bed. They do not need to disappear. They only need to remain unattended until morning. The mind can learn that postponing a thought is not the same as ignoring it. Rest may be the most useful response available now. A rested brain often thinks more clearly. It notices alternatives. It reacts with greater patience. Sleep does not solve every problem, but it changes the mind that will meet the problem. That change can be enough to make the next step visible. For now, the next step is very small. Another breath. Another moment of stillness. Another sentence passing quietly into darkness. There is no need to remember where this journey began. The facts can blend together. The science can become a soft current beneath the night, and you can continue drifting without needing to know exactly when wakefulness gives way to sleep. Happiness is often connected with reward, but the brain's reward systems are more complex than simple pleasure. They help guide attention, learning, motivation, and movement toward things that seem useful. A reward signal does not always mean that an experience feels joyful. Sometimes it creates wanting more strongly than liking. This difference helps explain why anticipation can be intense, even when the final experience is ordinary. The brain may become highly active while moving toward a goal. Once the goal is reached, the emotional response may be quieter than expected. Wanting and enjoying are related, but they are not identical. This is why more is not always the same as better. An activity can continue to attract attention even after it stops bringing much pleasure. The mind may keep checking, searching, or scrolling because the next small reward remains uncertain. Uncertainty can strengthen attention. When a reward arrives unpredictably, the brain may become more alert to the possibility of another. This pattern is useful in natural environments, where food and opportunity are not always predictable. In modern life, the same pattern can keep attention attached to repeated signals. A new message. A changing number. Fresh piece of information. Each one may offer a brief spark of interest. The spark fades quickly, encouraging another search. Calm happiness often depends on stepping outside this cycle for a while. The nervous system needs periods when nothing new is expected. A quiet walk without checking for updates can feel empty at first. Then the slower details begin to return. Footsteps, air, temperature, the sound of distant movement. Attention gradually becomes less hungry for interruption. This shift can feel peaceful because the mind is no longer preparing for the next signal. There is no need to search for anything now. The story can continue without asking anything from you. Pleasure also changes with attention and repetition. The first taste of something sweet may feel stronger than the final taste. The first minutes of warm water may feel more noticeable than the rest of the bath. This fading response is part of sensory adaptation. The senses reduce their reaction to steady conditions. This allows the brain to notice change more efficiently. If every sensation remained equally intense, the world would become overwhelming. Adaptation protects attention. It also explains why brief pauses can renew enjoyment. Leaving a room and returning may make its scent noticeable again. Putting music aside for a while may restore its emotional effect. Distance gives the nervous system a chance to reset. Pleasure can therefore benefit from rhythm. Experience. Pause. Return. This rhythm appears in eating, socializing, working, and resting. Constant access can sometimes weaken appreciation. A small amount of distance can make the familiar feel fresh. This does not mean that good things must be rare to matter. It means that contrast helps the brain notice them. Morning feels different because night came first. Warmth feels different after cold. Silence feels different after sound. The mind understands much of life through comparison. Gentle contrasts may support happiness without creating strain. A busy afternoon followed by a calm evening. A focused task followed by a slow walk. Conversation followed by comfortable silence. Balance is rarely a fixed state. It is a movement between different needs. The body alternates between activity and recovery. Attention alternates between focus and wandering. Relationships alternate between closeness and space. Well-being often depends on allowing these natural changes. Trying to remain in one pleasant state forever can create tension. Even joy becomes tiring when the body is not allowed to settle. A healthy emotional life includes variation. Excitement arises, calm returns. Interest deepens, boredom appears. Connection grows, solitude restores. Each state has a place. Happiness does not require eliminating the less pleasant parts. It may depend on trusting that no state is permanent. The mind often becomes distressed when it believes a difficult feeling will last forever. Yet emotional systems are designed to change. Chemistry shifts. Attention moves. The body grows tired of maintaining the same level of activation. Even grief, though it may return many times, changes shape across moments. Some waves are strong, others are quiet. Between them, ordinary life continues. Cup is washed. Windows opened. Someone asks a simple question. These small events may seem separate from healing, yet they gradually reconnect attention with the wider world. Recovery often happens through ordinary repetition. The body wakes, the day begins. Food is prepared. Light changes across the room. Life continues before meaning is fully restored. This continuation can be gentle evidence that movement remains possible. Resilience is often built from these small returns, not from one dramatic moment of strength, from many quiet acts of beginning again. The nervous system learns that distress can be survived. Each recovery adds to that learning. The next difficulty may still hurt, but the body carries memories of returning. These memories may not be conscious. They can exist as a subtle expectation that the present state will eventually shift. Hope sometimes lives in the body before it becomes a thought. A person gets out of bed, opens a curtain, drinks water. These actions suggest that some part of the system expects a future. The expectation may be faint. It still matters. Hope does not need to feel bright to be real. Sometimes it is only the willingness to continue for another hour, or the belief that rest may help, or the decision to answer one message. Small hopes are often more manageable than large promises. They ask less from the tired mind. They create a nearby point of movement, the next meal, the next morning, the next quiet place. This shorter horizon can be protective during difficult periods. The mind does not need to understand the entire future. It only needs enough direction for the next step. And now, there is no step required. You can remain exactly where you are. The body can continue its quiet work beneath these words. Positive emotion is also connected with memory consolidation. Experiences that carry emotion are often remembered more strongly than neutral details. Pleasant memories can become emotional resources. They may be recalled during stress or loneliness. A remembered beach, kitchen, garden, or voice can briefly change the present state. The memory does not recreate the original moment perfectly. It creates a new experience shaped by the present mind. Each recall can slightly alter the memory. Details may fade, feelings may strengthen or soften. Memory is not a sealed recording. It is a living reconstruction. This flexibility allows old experiences to gather new meaning. A childhood place may seem different when remembered as an adult. A once ordinary routine may later appear precious. Time changes the frame around experience. It reveals value that was invisible in the moment. This is one reason photographs can feel powerful. They capture details the mind may have forgotten: a particular coat, the angle of sunlight, the arrangement of a room. These details can reopen entire emotional landscapes. Yet photographs also simplify. They preserve one instant and leave the surrounding complexity outside the frame. A smiling image does not contain every feeling that existed that day. The mind often does something similar with memory. It selects, emphasizes, softens. This selection can sometimes make the past seem warmer than it was. That warmth is not necessarily false. It may reflect what remained meaningful. Nostalgia can support happiness by strengthening continuity. It reminds people that their present life is connected to earlier relationships, places, and versions of themselves. The past is gone, but its influence remains. A habit learned years ago may still shape the morning. A phrase from a loved one may still guide a decision. An old kindness may continue through the kindness it inspired. Human experience travels forward in these quiet ways. We carry pieces of other people, their expressions, their timing, their ways of offering comfort. Some of this learning is deliberate. Much of it happens without awareness. A child hears the rhythm of reassurance and later uses a similar rhythm with someone else. A friend's patience becomes a model for future patience. Care is often transmitted through imitation. This is one reason social environments matter so deeply. People learn emotional habits from the patterns around them. They learn whether feelings are welcomed or dismissed, whether mistakes are repaired, whether conflict can end safely. These patterns become expectations. Expectations shape behavior. Behavior helps create the next environment. In this way, well-being can spread across relationships, not as constant cheerfulness, as steadiness, respect, reliable attention. A calm person can sometimes lower the tension of a group. Their pace gives others permission to slow down. Their tone suggests that urgency is not always necessary. This influence is subtle. It may never be discussed. The nervous system notices it anyway. Humans are highly responsive to vocal tone. The same words can feel different when spoken with warmth or impatience. Tone carries information about safety and intention. A slow, steady voice can make a message easier to receive. This may be one reason bedtime stories feel comforting beyond their content. The voice itself becomes part of the experience. Predictable rhythm, gentle pacing, no sudden demand. The meaning can fade while the tone remains reassuring. You may already be listening in this way now, not following each fact, only noticing the soft movement of language. That is enough. The brain also responds to prosody, the musical shape of speech. Rising and falling pitch helps organize meaning. Pauses divide ideas. Rhythm gives the listener time to process. In a calm speech, these patterns can reduce effort. The mind does not need to work hard to keep up. Slow narration allows attention to loosen. Thoughts may come and go between sentences. The voice becomes a background structure, a kind of gentle railing along the edge of sleep. Language is one of the oldest tools for social comfort. Long before books, people shared stories in darkness. Stories carried knowledge, memory, warning, and belonging. They also filled quiet hours with familiar voices. A story says that someone is here, that time is moving, that the night has shape. Even when the details are forgotten, the experience of being accompanied may remain. This is part of why people return to stories throughout life. They organize uncertainty. They place events into sequence, beginning, change, continuation, sometimes an ending. The structure helps the mind understand that experience moves. Nothing remains at the same point forever. This movement can be reassuring. A difficult chapter is not the whole book. A confusing scene may gain meaning later. Life is not as orderly as a story. Still, stories give imagination a way to hold complexity. They let the mind explore emotions at a safe distance. A listener can experience fear, relief, loss, and hope without immediate personal danger. This emotional simulation may support understanding. It allows people to practice seeing through other perspectives. Empathy often grows from this imaginative movement. The mind briefly builds a model of another person's experience. This model is never complete, yet even an imperfect attempt can reduce distance. Feeling understood is comforting. Trying to understand can also be meaningful. Empathy connects private worlds. It reminds us that each person carries thoughts and feelings that are mostly invisible. The stranger on a train has memories. The quiet neighbor has worries. The person serving food has a life extending far beyond that moment. Recognizing this can create a gentle sense of shared humanity. The world becomes populated with inner lives. This awareness may encourage kindness. It can also create awe. Millions of minds moving through ordinary days. Each one noticing different details. Each one carrying a unique history. Human life is both deeply personal and widely shared. Most people know fatigue. Most people seek safety. Most people have been comforted by someone. Most people have comforted someone else. These common experiences form quiet bridges. They do not erase difference. They create places where difference can be met. Belonging often grows from this balance. Being accepted without having to become identical. Being known without being controlled. Having space within connection. A healthy group makes room for individuality. It offers support without demanding constant performance. This kind of belonging can strengthen happiness because it reduces social uncertainty. The person does not need to prove their place every moment. Their presence is already included. This security allows more energy for curiosity and contribution. The mind can ask not only whether it belongs, but what it might offer. Contribution supports well-being when it feels voluntary and valued. People often enjoy seeing that their effort matters. A repaired object, a completed meal, a problem made easier for someone else. The visible result connects action with meaning. Invisible contributions matter too. Listening, waiting, remembering, creating a calm atmosphere. These acts may leave no physical object. Their effects can still be lasting. A person may forget the exact words they heard. They may remember that they felt less alone. Emotional impact is often stored as atmosphere rather than detail. This is true of childhood memories and adult relationships. We remember how a room felt, how someone looked when we entered, whether silence was safe. These impressions guide future expectations. They become part of the emotional map. Happiness often depends on finding or creating places where the map contains safety. A chair near a window, a familiar cafe, a quiet corner in a library, a path beside water. The place itself may be ordinary. Repeated peaceful experiences make it significant. The brain links location with state. Returning can then reactivate part of that state. This is called context-dependent memory. A setting can make certain thoughts or feelings easier to access. The scent of a library may awaken concentration. The sound of waves may awaken spaciousness. The bedroom may awaken sleepiness when it has become strongly associated with rest. These connections develop gradually. They are strengthened by consistency. This is why changing the environment can sometimes change behavior. A clear table may make a task easier to begin. Dimmer light may make evening feel closer. A phone placed farther away may reduce automatic checking. Small environmental changes reduce the need for willpower. They shape what becomes easy. Human behavior is influenced by surroundings more than people often realize. The position of an object can affect whether it is used. The sound level can affect patience. The presence of plants can alter how a room feels. Well-being is not created only inside the mind. It is supported or strained by the physical world. Light, noise, space, temperature, air quality, access to nature. These conditions influence the body continuously. A comfortable environment does not guarantee happiness. An uncomfortable one can make calm much harder. This is another reason self-care is not merely an attitude. Sometimes it means changing a real condition, opening a window, reducing noise, eating something nourishing, asking for help. The mind does not need to solve every discomfort through thought. Practical care can be deeply emotional. A blanket changes temperature. A meal changes energy. A closed door changes privacy. These simple actions communicate safety to the body. The message may be stronger than a complicated reassurance. The body trusts evidence, warmth, support, predictability, rest. These are forms of evidence. Perhaps some of them are present around you now. The surface beneath your body is holding your weight. The air continues to enter and leave. The room remains where it was. No action is required to keep these things happening. The mind can release a little more responsibility. It does not need to supervise the night. The night can continue on its own. Somewhere, distant lights remain on. Somewhere, roads are quiet. Somewhere, another person is also listening for sleep. Across many rooms, nervous systems are gradually slowing. Breathing deepens, muscles soften, thoughts become less precise. This shared human rhythm repeats every night. For all the differences between lives, sleep remains a common return. The world becomes smaller. Awareness turns inward. The body begins repairing what the day has used. In this return, happiness may appear not as joy, but as permission. Permission to stop. Permission to be unfinished. Permission to let tomorrow remain. Tomorrow. Nothing more needs to be achieved in this hour. The facts can fade into the background. The words can lose their edges, and the quiet science of happiness can continue without needing your attention. Happiness is also shaped by the way people relate to uncertainty. The brain prefers patterns because patterns make the world easier to predict. Predictability reduces the need for constant vigilance. When events follow a familiar sequence, the nervous system can use less energy. This is one reason routines often feel comforting. They create small islands of certainty inside a changing world. Yet complete predictability can become dull. The mind also needs novelty. New experiences provide information. They wake attention and create opportunities for learning. Well-being often appears between these two needs. Enough familiarity to feel safe, enough novelty to remain interested. A familiar neighborhood may feel peaceful. A different street within it may feel refreshing. The same room may feel new when morning light enters from a different angle. The balance does not need to be dramatic. Small changes are often enough. A new recipe, a different song, a conversation with someone usually seen only in passing. These small variations gently renew attention. They help the brain notice the world again. Novelty can also make time feel fuller. When days contain many distinct experiences, memory stores more separate markers. Looking back, the period may seem longer. By contrast, highly repetitive periods may seem to disappear. The days were lived, but fewer details were stored. This does not mean life should always be busy. Restful repetition has its own value, but gentle novelty can help a season feel more vivid. A single unusual afternoon may become a landmark in memory. A new park, train taken to an unfamiliar town, quiet meal in a different room. These moments divide time into chapters. They give memory something to hold. Human beings often feel happier when life contains a sense of movement. Movement does not always mean ambition. It can mean change, discovery, or simply the feeling that experience is unfolding. Stagnation can feel uncomfortable because the mind expects some form of development. A plant grows, weather shifts, skills change, relationships deepen or loosen. Even the body is never exactly the same from one day to the next. Life is a process rather than a fixed state. Happiness may come from participating in that process without trying to control every part of it. There is no need to control this moment. You can let it unfold on its own. The words will continue. The night will continue. The body will continue its steady work. A sense of progress can support well-being even when progress is small. The brain responds to evidence that effort is leading somewhere. This evidence may come from a finished page, a cleaner room, or a stronger relationship. Visible progress is especially satisfying because it reduces uncertainty. The mind can see that change has occurred. This is why checklists often feel rewarding. Crossing out one task creates a clear signal of completion, yet not all progress is visible. Emotional growth can happen quietly. A difficult conversation may feel slightly easier. A mistake may lead to less self-criticism. A stressful day may end with a faster return to calm. These changes can be easy to miss. They do not always produce a clear result. Sometimes progress means recovering in hours instead of days. Sometimes it means asking for help earlier. Sometimes it means recognizing a need before exhaustion becomes overwhelming. These are meaningful changes. They show that the nervous system is learning. Learning itself is rarely smooth. Improvement often includes repetition, error, rest, and temporary decline. A skill can seem worse on one day and better the next. The brain continues organizing even when progress is not visible. Rest is part of learning. During breaks and sleep, new patterns become more stable. The mind needs time away from a task to integrate what it has practiced. This is why a problem can feel easier after stepping away. The answer may appear during a walk or the following morning. Attention relaxes, allowing different ideas to connect. Productive rest is not always distinguishable from ordinary rest. The person may simply be sitting quietly. Inside the brain, many connections are still changing. This hidden work is another reason not to judge a day only by what was completed. Some days are for action, some are for recovery, some are for understanding what happened. A healthy life makes room for all three. The body cannot remain in constant output. Muscles need recovery. Attention needs recovery. Emotional systems need recovery too. Without enough rest, pleasure can become harder to feel. Even enjoyable activities may begin to seem demanding. This is not a failure of gratitude. It is often a sign of depleted energy. The tired brain narrows its focus. It becomes more sensitive to difficulty. Rest widens the field again. After recovery, the same environment may appear more manageable. The same people may seem easier to understand. The same task may feel less threatening. This change reminds us that mood is not always a final judgment about life. Sometimes it is information about the body. Hunger can resemble irritability. Overstimulation can resemble sadness. Loneliness can resemble fatigue. The causes may overlap. Human emotion is rarely produced by one single factor. It emerges from many systems working together. Sleep, health, memory, expectation, relationships, environment, meaning. Because so many factors are involved, small improvements can come from many directions. A better meal may help. A conversation may help. A walk may help. A quieter room may help. No single action needs to carry the whole burden. Well-being is often supported by several small conditions at once. This can be reassuring. It means happiness does not depend on one perfect solution. It can be rebuilt from different materials. Connection, rest, curiosity, how? Warmth, purpose, movement. A person may rely more on one source during one season and another source later. Life changes, and the balance changes with it. The mind is capable of finding new paths toward stability. This adaptability is one of its quiet strengths. If an old source of happiness becomes unavailable, the loss can be real. Yet new forms of meaning may slowly develop. They may not replace what was lost, they may grow beside it. Human emotional life often expands rather than simply exchanges one feeling for another. Grief and gratitude can share space. Memory and new experience can coexist. The heart does not need to erase the past in order to continue. This capacity allows relationships to remain meaningful even after they change. A person can carry love for someone who is no longer nearby. The relationship becomes internal. Memories, habits, and values continue influencing the present. This continuation can be painful and comforting at the same time. Emotions do not always fit into simple categories. The brain can blend them. Bittersweet feelings are evidence of this complexity. A beautiful ending can bring sadness. A memory can bring warmth and longing. A child growing older can bring pride and loss. These combinations may feel deeper than simple pleasure. They connect happiness with meaning. A life without sadness would also lack many signs that something mattered. Attachment creates vulnerability. Care creates the possibility of grief. Yet attachment and care are also among the strongest sources of happiness. The nervous system accepts this risk because connection is essential. To love something is to allow it to matter. What matters can change us. This change becomes part of the self. Identity is built from many attachments. People, places, skills. beliefs, roles, stories. Some identities remain stable for years. Some, others change quietly. A person may stop thinking of themselves as a beginner. They may become a parent, a mentor, a neighbor, or a trusted friend. These roles influence happiness because they shape meaning and belonging. They tell a person how they are connected to the world. Yet identity can become stressful when it feels too narrow. No one role contains an entire human being. A person can be competent in one area and uncertain in another, strong and tired, helpful, and in need of help. Identity becomes gentler when it allows complexity. There is less pressure to perform the same version of the self in every situation. Different parts can appear at different times. Playfulness in one room, seriousness in another, silence in another. This flexibility supports authenticity. Authenticity does not mean expressing every thought. It means living with less distance between inner values and outward behavior. When actions align with values, effort can feel more coherent. You, the person, does not need to constantly pretend. Pretending can be exhausting because it requires monitoring. How am I appearing? What should I say? What version of me is expected? Some social adjustment is normal. Humans are responsive to context, yet environments that allow more natural expression often feel safer. Safety reduces self-monitoring. Face relaxes, the voice changes. Silence becomes easier. This is one reason close relationships can feel restful. The person does not need to explain every pause. Familiarity fills in some of the gaps. Two people can sit quietly without fearing that the connection has disappeared. Comfortable silence is a form of trust. It suggests that presence itself is enough. Words are available but not required. Shared silence can feel different from solitude. Another nervous system is nearby. The room contains companionship without demand. This state is rare and valuable. It combines connection with rest. Many forms of happiness exist in this middle space. Not intense closeness, not complete distance, a gentle awareness of someone nearby, reading in the same room, cooking without conversation, walking side by side. These activities create parallel attention. Each person is partly involved in their own experience and partly aware of the other. This balance can feel stable. There is freedom without disconnection. Human beings often regulate each other through simple presence. A familiar person moving calmly in the background may make a space feel safer. The sound of dishes, pages turning, or footsteps can become reassuring. These ordinary sounds suggest continuity. Someone is there. The world is proceeding normally. Normality can be deeply comforting after uncertainty. A routine day may seem unremarkable until routine is disrupted. Then, ordinary life reveals its value. A regular bus, familiar face at work, the same shop opening each morning. These patterns create a shared world. They allow people to rely on one another without personal closeness. Social trust extends beyond friendships. It includes the expectation that systems and strangers will usually behave predictably. Doors will open. Lights will work. A package will arrive. A doctor will listen. A driver will stop. When these expectations are met, the mind can move through the day with less vigilance. Much of modern comfort depends on this invisible cooperation. Thousands of people contribute to ordinary stability. Water reaches a tap. Now, food reaches a shelf. Electricity reaches a room. Most of these contributors remain unknown. yet their work shapes daily well-being. Recognizing this network can create a quiet sense of connection. No one lives entirely alone. Even solitude is supported by countless shared systems. The chair was made. The building was maintained. The book was printed. The road was repaired. Human lives are woven together through practical acts. This interdependence is easy to overlook. Individual culture often emphasizes self-reliance. Yet complete self-reliance is impossible. People depend on others from birth through old age. Accepting support is not a failure. It is part of ordinary human design. Receiving can be as important as giving. A person who never receives may deny others the chance to contribute. Mutual care creates balance. Sometimes one person carries more. Later, the direction changes. Relationships remain alive through this movement. Perfect equality in every moment is not necessary. What matters is a broader sense of fairness and trust, the knowledge that care can move in both directions. This trust supports happiness because it reduces isolation. A difficult day feels different when help is possible. Even if help is not needed, its availability matters. The nervous system relaxes when escape routes and support options exist. Choice creates safety. Knowing that one can leave, ask, rest, or change direction makes endurance easier. This is true in relationships, work, and physical environments. Freedom does not need to be used constantly. Its presence is enough. A door that can be opened changes the feeling of a room. A conversation that can be paused changes the feeling of conflict. A plan that can be adjusted changes the feeling of commitment. Flexibility reduces the fear of being trapped. This may be one reason. Flexible goals support well-being better than rigid ones. A rigid goal turns every deviation into failure. A flexible goal can respond to new information. The deeper direction remains while the path changes. This resembles navigation. A traveler may take another road without abandoning the destination. Life often requires this kind of adjustment. Health changes. Circumstances shift. Priorities become clearer. A plan created by an earlier self may no longer fit the present one. Changing direction can be a form of wisdom. It means the person is listening to reality. Persistence is valuable, but only when the path still matters. Letting go can also support happiness. Releasing an outdated goal frees energy. The release may contain grief. Time and effort were invested. An imagined future must be revised, yet the space that remains can hold something new. Letting go is not always sudden. It may happen through many small recognitions. Less excitement, more strain. A growing sense that the effort no longer matches the value. The mind often resists this because unfinished stories feel uncomfortable. It prefers closure. Sometimes closure comes from understanding. Sometimes it comes from acceptance without full explanation. Not every question receives a satisfying answer. Not every relationship ends neatly. Not every dream becomes possible. The nervous system can still learn to live beside uncertainty. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means reducing the struggle against what cannot currently be changed. This reduction saves energy. The energy can then move toward what remains possible. A person cannot change yesterday. They may change how they care for themselves tonight. They cannot control another person's thoughts. They may choose their own boundaries. They cannot predict every outcome. They may prepare gently and remain flexible. These limits can feel disappointing. They can also simplify the world. Though, only some parts require action. The rest can be acknowledged and released for now. You can release this story too. There is no need to remember the beginning. No need to track how many ideas have passed. The words can become a soft texture, a quiet rhythm inside the room. Happiness is sometimes found in this reduction of effort, fewer decisions, fewer explanations, fewer things to hold at once. The mind does not need to carry the entire day into sleep. It can set down pieces gradually, the unfinished task, the unanswered message. The strange moment from earlier. Each one can remain where it is until morning. Night does not demand resolution. It only offers distance. Distance can change emotional scale. A problem viewed from farther away may feel smaller. A memory given time may feel less sharp. A decision postponed until rest may become clearer. The brain needs cycles, wakefulness and sleep, focus and wandering, effort and release. Happiness is often supported by respecting these cycles. There is a time to solve, a time to connect, a time to explore, and a time to stop. Stopping is not an absence of progress. It is one of the conditions that makes future progress possible. The heart slows. The muscles release. Attention turns inward. The body enters another phase of its work. You do not need to supervise any of it. Sleep is not an achievement. It is a process the body already knows. The quieter you become, the less you need to direct. The words can continue without being followed. The ideas can blend into one another, and the night can become larger than the thoughts moving through it. Happiness is also influenced by the way the brain notices beauty. Beauty does not need to be grand. It can appear in symmetry, color, movement, sound, or the quiet order of familiar things. The brain often responds to patterns that are complex enough to remain interesting, but clear enough to understand. A perfectly blank surface may offer too little information. A chaotic surface may offer too much. Between them lies a balance. The mind often finds pleasing. This balance appears in leaves, shells, clouds, coastlines, and branching rivers. Natural forms contain repetition without becoming exact. Each part resembles another, yet no two are completely the same. The eye can recognize the pattern while continuing to discover small differences. This gentle combination of order and variation may help explain why natural scenes feel restorative. They hold attention without demanding it. A tree can be observed closely or allowed to remain in the background. Water can provide movement without urgency. Clouds can change without requiring any response. These forms allow attention to rest in a flexible way. The mind is engaged, but not pressured. This kind of attention is different from the sharp focus required by alarms, messages, or difficult decisions. It is sometimes called soft fascination. Something quietly interesting holds the mind while allowing effortful attention to recover. Watching flames, rain, waves, or leaves moving in wind may create this effect. The movement is predictable enough to feel safe, yet it never repeats in exactly the same way. The brain can follow it without needing to reach a conclusion. There is no conclusion needed here either. You can let the ideas move like slow water, carrying attention only as far as it wishes to go. Beauty can also create a brief pause in self-focused thought. For a moment, attention moves outward. A wide sky may make personal concerns feel smaller within a larger world. The concerns do not disappear. Their scale changes. This shift can be comforting because the mind is no longer the center of every event. There are mountains, oceans, stars, and seasons continuing beyond individual worries. The world remains active without requiring personal control. A sunrise occurs whether anyone watches it or not. Tides rise and fall without instruction. Trees continue their slow chemical work through the night. Remembering this can reduce the feeling that everything depends on one person. Life is supported by countless processes already in motion. Some are natural, some are social, some are happening quietly within the body. Happiness can grow when the mind trusts these processes a little more. Trust allows effort to soften. It creates room for experience without constant management. Not every pleasant moment needs to be improved. Not every silence needs music. Not every evening needs to become memorable. Some moments are valuable because they ask so little. They pass gently and leave the nervous system less tired than before. Modern attention is often encouraged to seek intensity, brighter images, faster changes, stronger reactions. Yet the brain also needs lower levels of stimulation. Without contrast, intense experiences lose their effect. Quiet restores sensitivity. After silence, a simple sound becomes noticeable. After darkness, a small light seems warm. After stillness, a slow movement feels alive. Reduced stimulation can make ordinary experiences vivid again. This may be one reason a calm morning after deep sleep feels unusually clear. The first sound seems separate. The air has a distinct temperature. Light enters gradually rather than all at once. The mind has not yet gathered the full weight of the day. These early moments can contain a simple form of happiness. Nothing remarkable has happened. Awareness is simply fresh. Fresh attention is one of the quiet gifts of rest. Sleep helps reduce the emotional residue of continuous stimulation. It does not erase memory. It changes the way memory is organized and approached. The rested mind may have more space between a thought and a reaction. That small space can support patience. It can make kindness easier. It can help a person notice choices that were invisible when tired. Happiness is often strengthened by these tiny spaces. A pause before answering. A breath before deciding. A moment of observation before assuming. The pause does not guarantee the perfect response. It gives flexibility a chance to appear. Flexibility is one of the foundations of emotional well-being. A flexible mind can adjust when reality differs from expectation. It can revise a plan without believing everything has failed. It can hold several possible explanations at once. Rigid thinking may feel secure because it reduces uncertainty, yet it can also make ordinary change feel threatening. Flexibility allows the nervous system to bend without losing direction. This capacity is supported by safety. When people feel threatened, thinking often becomes narrower. The brain prioritizes speed and protection. When safety returns, curiosity and complexity become easier. This means that emotional flexibility is not only a matter of willpower. The body must feel sufficiently supported. Food, rest, shelter, trust, and predictability all contribute. Once these conditions improve, the mind may become more open naturally. This is why practical support can change thinking. A person may not need better advice. They may need sleep. They may need time. They may need someone else to share the burden. Happiness is sometimes restored by reducing demand rather than adding inspiration. A difficult problem can feel different when it is no longer carried alone. Shared effort changes emotional weight. The task may remain the same. The nervous system receives evidence that help is available. Cooperation has shaped human life for thousands of generations. People survived by sharing information, labor, food, and care. The ability to coordinate with others remains deeply rewarding. Working beside someone toward a common goal can create connection even without much conversation. Two people preparing a room, repairing an object, or cooking a meal may fall into a shared rhythm. Each action supports the next. Progress becomes visible. The sense of doing something together can be more satisfying than the result alone. Shared goals reduce some forms of social uncertainty. Everyone knows what they are there to do. Attention turns toward the task rather than constant self-presentation. This is one reason group activities can help strangers feel more comfortable. Conversation arises around something external. There is less pressure to create connection directly. Connection grows through repeated small coordination. Passing an object, waiting for a turn, noticing when someone needs assistance. These ordinary actions build trust. Trust is often formed through behavior before it is described in words. A person becomes dependable by returning, listening, and following through. Each reliable action is a small piece of evidence. Over time, the evidence becomes expectation. The mind no longer needs to question every interaction. This reduction in uncertainty can feel like peace. Peace is not always silence. Sometimes it is the absence of doubt within activity. A busy kitchen can feel peaceful when everyone understands the rhythm. A long journey can feel peaceful when the route is trusted. A conversation can feel peaceful when disagreement does not threaten the relationship. Emotional safety allows complexity. People can have different opinions without losing connection. They can make mistakes without expecting abandonment. They can express needs without immediate shame. These conditions support a deeper form of happiness and constant agreement. Agreement can be pleasant. Trust makes difference survivable. A secure bond has room for repair. Repair is one of the most important parts of relationships. No one remains perfectly patient or attentive. Misunderstandings happen. Tone becomes sharp. Needs are missed. What matters is often what happens afterward. An apology can restore connection. Careful question can reopen understanding. A changed behavior can make the apology believable. Repair teaches the nervous system that conflict does not always mean permanent loss. This lesson allows relationships to feel safer. People can remain more honest when mistakes are not treated as the end. Happiness in relationships is therefore not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of enough trust, care, and repair. The same principle can apply within the self. A disrupted routine does not have to become total failure. A tired day does not erase earlier progress. The next action can be a form of repair. Returning gently is often more useful than criticizing the interruption. Habits become sustainable when they allow return. A perfect sequence is fragile. A flexible sequence can survive real life. This is true of sleep routines, exercise, creative work, and relationships. Interruption is normal. Return is the skill. The nervous system learns through repeated returns. Each one suggests that difficulty is temporary. A person may drift from balance and find it again. Not exactly the same balance as before. A new version, shaped by what happened. Recovery is rarely a return to an untouched state. It is a reorganization. The mind carries the experience forward. Sometimes it carries new caution. Sometimes new understanding. Sometimes a deeper appreciation for what once seemed ordinary. A period of poor health may make energy feel precious. Loneliness may reveal the value of regular companionship. Uncertainty may make routine feel comforting. Contrast changes. Perception. The return of something familiar can create strong relief. A normal appetite, an easy breath, a message from someone missed. The ability to enjoy simple things often becomes clear after they have been absent. This does not mean hardship is necessary for gratitude. It means the brain notices contrast. The mind may recognize value more sharply when conditions change. Still, value exists even when it is not consciously noticed. The body benefits from safety without celebrating it. Relationships support the mind even during ordinary silence. Reliable systems protect daily life without entering awareness. Much of happiness is carried by structures that remain invisible until they fail. A stable floor, clean water, a trusted routine, a person who usually answers. These forms of support create a background where attention can move toward other things. The background may not feel exciting. It makes excitement, curiosity, and rest possible. Stable happiness often depends more on this background than on rare emotional peaks. Peaks are memorable. Background conditions shape most hours. A beautiful trip may last a week. A comfortable daily rhythm may influence an entire year. This is why ordinary life deserves attention. It contains the repeated conditions from which well-being grows. The way morning begins. The pace of meals. The tone of familiar conversations. The amount of silence. The possibility of rest. Small adjustments in these areas can matter more than dramatic changes. A lamp placed near a chair can make reading easier. A regular message can strengthen a distant friendship. A prepared breakfast can reduce morning stress. These actions are simple. Their effects accumulate. Happiness is often the result of helpful friction being removed. When an action becomes easier, it is more likely to happen. Shoes near the door make walking easier. Water nearby makes drinking easier. A book left open makes returning easier. The environment can support intention. This reduces the need for constant motivation. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on mood, energy, and circumstances. Designing gentle support around a desired behavior can be more dependable. The mind then experiences more small successes. Success builds confidence. Confidence makes future action feel less costly. This cycle can develop slowly. It does not need to begin with a large change. One small action can serve as evidence that movement is possible. The brain updates through experience more readily than through promises. Telling oneself that everything will improve may offer comfort. Completing one manageable step offers evidence. Evidence can be quiet. A cleared surface, a scheduled appointment, a message sent, a boundary expressed. The world is slightly different afterward. The difference may be enough. Yet tonight, no difference needs to be made. This hour can remain exactly as it is. You do not need to turn any idea into action. Listening is enough. Resting is enough. Letting the mind wander is enough. The science can remain in the background while the body moves closer to sleep. Happiness is also connected to permission. Permission to enjoy something without earning it. Permission to stop before exhaustion. Permission to decline what overwhelms. Permission to be pleased by simple things. Many people delay rest until every task is finished, but tasks continually replace one another. If rest must wait for complete completion, it may never arrive. A healthier rhythm allows rest inside an unfinished life. The work can remain incomplete. The person can still be worthy of sleep. This distinction matters. Rest is not a reward given only after perfect performance. It is a biological need. The body does not ask whether enough was accomplished before becoming tired. Fatigue is information, not a moral judgment. Responding to it can be an act of wisdom. A person who rests may return with clearer attention. They may make fewer mistakes. They may speak more gently. Rest supports many qualities people try to force through effort: patience, memory, creativity, emotional control. The most productive choice is sometimes to stop. The most caring choice is sometimes silence. The most courageous choice is sometimes asking for help. Happiness often appears when the correct response matches the actual need, not the imagined need, not the socially expected need, the real one. Recognizing real needs requires attention. The body may speak through tension, heaviness, restlessness, or irritation. These signals are not always precise. They invite curiosity. What is missing? What has been too much? What might make the next hour gentler? The answer does not need to be profound. Less noise, more water, a closed door, a kind voice, a little more sleep. Sometimes the simplest answer is the most accurate. Complex minds still depend on simple conditions: warmth, nourishment, safety, connection, rest. These foundations do not solve every problem. They help the mind meet problems with greater stability. And now, some of those foundations may already be present. The room is holding its shape. The surface beneath you remains steady. The night is asking less than the day did. Your attention can become smaller. Your thoughts can become less complete. Nothing needs to be finished before the next breath. The words can soften around the edges. The facts can become distant lights. And somewhere beneath them, the quiet systems of well-being can continue their work without being noticed. Happiness is often influenced by the pace at which life is experienced. The brain can process a great deal of information, but constant speed carries a cost. Fast transitions leave less time for emotion to settle. One task ends, and another begins before the mind has fully shifted. This can create a sense of continuous pressure, even when no single task is overwhelming. Slower transitions give the nervous system time to update. A few quiet minutes between activities can help one experience close before the next one begins. The pause may be very simple. Putting away a cup, standing near a window, walking from one room to another without checking anything. These small spaces separate the day into parts. Without them, many hours can blur together. The mind may feel as though it has been moving continuously. This is one reason travel can feel tiring even when the body has been sitting. Airports, stations, roads, schedules, signs, and changing environments require constant adjustment. The brain keeps building new maps. It monitors where to go, what to carry, and what might happen next. When the journey ends, familiar surroundings can feel especially comforting. The mind no longer needs to calculate every movement. It knows where objects are. It recognizes the sounds. It understands the space without effort. This reduction in mental work can feel like relief. Relief often reveals how much effort had been happening in the background. A familiar room does not need to be perfect. Its value comes partly from being known. The body can move through it with less attention. You can let your own attention become lighter now. There is no new place to navigate, no direction to remember, only the quiet continuation of these words. The experience of time also changes with emotion. When people are anxious, they may monitor each passing moment. Waiting becomes more noticeable. The future feels slow to arrive. During pleasant absorption, the opposite can happen. Several hours may pass without much awareness. The clock continues, but attention is elsewhere. Neither experience represents time exactly as it is. They show how attention shapes duration. This can make happiness feel strangely brief. A pleasant evening seems to pass too quickly. Yet the memory may continue offering warmth afterward. The value of an experience is not measured only by how long it felt. A short moment can influence an entire day. A few kind words can reduce tension for hours. A brief laugh can change the tone of a conversation. A peaceful view can remain in memory long after it disappears. Emotion gives some moments a longer life. They continue through recall. They shape expectation. They influence behavior that comes later. A person treated with patience may become more patient with someone else. A moment of encouragement may support effort days afterward. Positive emotion can move through time in this indirect way. its effects spread beyond the original experience. This is true of negative emotion as well. A sharp interaction may influence the next one. Stress can travel from one person to another, yet calm can travel too. A gentle response can interrupt the movement of tension. It creates a different possible pattern. This interruption may be small. Someone speaks more slowly. Someone chooses not to answer immediately. Someone allows a mistake to remain ordinary. The atmosphere changes. Emotional tone is often created through accumulation. One impatient moment may not define a room. Repeated impatience can. One kind moment may seem small. Repeated kindness can become culture. People learn what to expect from the environments they enter. They notice how others react to questions, how they respond to uncertainty, how they treat the person with less power. These patterns influence safety. A respectful environment reduces the need for self-protection. Attention can move away from monitoring and toward participation. This supports both well-being and creativity. The mind works differently when it does not expect humiliation. It takes more thoughtful risks. It asks more questions. It admits uncertainty earlier. These behaviors make learning easier. They also strengthen trust. Happiness in groups often depends less on constant positivity and more on reliable respect. People do not need to feel cheerful every day. They need enough safety to be honest. A tired person can say they are tired. A confused person can ask for clarification. A person who made a mistake can help repair it. These ordinary freedoms reduce emotional strain. Strain often grows when inner experience must be hidden. The person manages the task and the appearance of managing the task. This double effort can be exhausting. A safe relationship allows some of that effort to stop. The face does not need to remain arranged. The voice does not need to sound stronger than it feels. The person can simply be present. This ease is one of the quieter forms of happiness. It may not feel like pleasure. It feels like not needing to defend oneself. There is no need to defend anything here. The night does not require an explanation. You can listen, wander, or sleep. All of these are acceptable. Happiness is also influenced by the experience of fairness. People are sensitive to whether effort, reward, care, and responsibility feel reasonably balanced. Perfect equality is not always possible or even meaningful. But persistent unfairness can create stress and resentment. The nervous system notices when agreements are repeatedly broken. It also notices when cooperation is mutual. Fairness supports trust because it makes social outcomes easier to predict. A person can contribute without fearing that their effort will always be taken for granted. They can receive without feeling that the relationship has become unsafe. Mutuality gives connection, a stable rhythm. Sometimes one person needs more support. At another time, the balance may reverse. Healthy relationships can tolerate these temporary differences. What matters is the broader expectation that care is not moving, only one way forever. This expectation helps prevent exhaustion. Giving can be deeply rewarding. But giving without limits may turn warmth into depletion. Boundaries protect the conditions that allow care to continue. A boundary is not always rejection. It can be information. This is what I can offer. This is what I cannot do today. This is the amount of space I need. Clear boundaries reduce uncertainty. They make relationships easier to navigate. Without them, people may rely on guessing. Guessing requires monitoring. Monitoring creates tension. A respectful boundary can therefore increase trust, even when it creates temporary disappointment. It shows that the relationship can hold honesty. Honesty is often more stable than silent resentment. The ability to say no can support happiness because it protects time and energy for what matters. Every yes uses part of a limited life. Time, attention, and effort cannot be offered everywhere at once. Choosing one direction means leaving another unchosen. This limitation can feel uncomfortable, yet it also gives meaning to choice. A commitment matters partly because other possibilities were released. A person who chooses to spend an evening with someone is giving a piece of time that cannot be used again. This is one reason attention can feel like love. To offer full attention is to offer part of life itself. The gift does not need to last long. A few minutes of genuine presence may feel more nourishing than an hour of divided attention. The brain detects when another person is only partly available. Eyes move away. Responses arrive late. The rhythm of conversation becomes less connected. Full attention creates a different rhythm. Each person adjusts to the other. Pauses are noticed. Meaning becomes clearer. The conversation may feel slower, even if it is brief. This quality of presence is increasingly rare in environments filled with interruption. Its rarity can make it especially valuable, yet attention is difficult to sustain endlessly. The mind naturally shifts. It notices sounds, thoughts, and changes. This wandering is not a failure. It is part of normal cognition. The skill is not perfect focus. It is gentle return. Attention leaves. Attention comes back. Each return reconnects the person with the present experience. This pattern appears in meditation, conversation, work, and rest. The return matters more than the departure. A mind that wanders can still be attentive. A relationship that loses rhythm can still repair. A day that becomes stressful can still contain a calmer evening. Well-being is flexible because return remains possible. Even now, your mind may have moved somewhere else, perhaps into a memory, perhaps into tomorrow, perhaps into the edge of sleep. There is nothing wrong with that. These words can be here whenever attention returns. And if it does not return, the story can continue without you. Happiness may also grow from the feeling of being useful. Usefulness connects personal effort with something beyond the self. The task may be tiring, yet satisfying because its purpose is clear. Preparing food for someone. Fixing a broken object. Teaching a skill. Caring for a living thing. These activities produce visible or felt consequences. The world is slightly better afterward. This evidence can strengthen self-respect. It shows that action has weight, yet usefulness should not become the only measure of worth. A person remains valuable while resting, recovering, learning, or needing care. Human life cannot be divided into useful and useless hours. Resting bodies are still alive. Quiet minds are still processing. Relationships continue even when no task is being completed. A child does not need to earn care through productivity. An exhausted adult does not lose dignity by stopping. Worth and output are different things. Confusing them can make happiness feel conditional. The person may believe they are allowed to feel good only after accomplishing enough. But enough keeps moving. There is always another task available. Conditional worth makes rest difficult because rest appears undeserved. A gentler view allows productivity to remain meaningful without becoming identity. Work is something a person does. It is not the entire person. Success is an experience. It is not a complete definition. Failure is also an experience. It cannot contain the whole self. The self is larger than any single result. It includes memories, relationships, intentions, habits, contradictions, and possibilities. No one moment can summarize it. This wider view can reduce the emotional force of mistakes. Mistakes still matters. It may require repair, but it does not need to become a permanent name. The brain often turns events into identities. I failed can become I am a failure. I felt afraid can become I am weak. I needed help can become I am incapable. These conclusions are broader than the evidence. They compress a changing life into one fixed statement. More accurate language can create flexibility. This attempt did not work. This situation was frightening. This task required support. The event remains real, but the identity remains open. Open identities can grow. Fixed identities resist new information. The belief that change is possible supports effort. It also supports forgiveness. Forgiveness does not always mean restoring a relationship. It can mean reducing the emotional hold of what happened. This process may be slow. It cannot be forced by a simple decision. The nervous system needs time to update its sense of safety. Sometimes distance is necessary. Sometimes repair is possible. Sometimes the kindest outcome is letting a connection end. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not identical. A person may release some anger while maintaining a boundary. They may understand without returning. They may stop carrying the event into every new day. This release can create space for other experiences. Anger has an important purpose. It signals violation, obstruction, or unfairness. It can provide energy for protection and change. But maintaining anger requires activation. The body cannot remain activated forever without cost. When safety improves, the system may begin to release some of that energy. The release can feel like sadness, or fatigue, or unexpected emptiness. These states may be part of emotional reorganization. Healing does not always feel pleasant. Sometimes it feels quiet and unfamiliar. The absence of familiar distress can create its own uncertainty. A person may not know who they are without the problem occupying so much attention. Over time, the empty space can become freedom. New interests return. Attention widens. The body learns that it no longer needs the same level of protection. This learning is gradual. The nervous system changes through repeated safe experiences. One calm day after another. One reliable interaction after another. One night of rest after another. Each experience offers new evidence. The past remains part of the system, but the present keeps adding information. This is one of the hopeful facts about the brain. It does not stop learning simply because a pattern is old. Change may become slower in some ways. It remains possible. New pathways can be strengthened through use. Old reactions can become less dominant when they are no longer reinforced. The process is not a clean replacement. Old and new patterns may coexist for a long time. A person can understand that they are safe and still feel anxious. They can trust someone and still become guarded. They can choose rest and still feel guilty. These contradictions do not mean change has failed. They mean different parts of the system are learning at different speeds. The older response may arrive first. The newer response may follow. With repetition, the distance between them can become shorter. Awareness creates a small gap. There is the reaction. Then there is the possibility of another choice. The gap may last only a second. It is still meaningful. Freedom often begins in very small spaces. The pause before repeating an old habit. The moment before sending a sharp reply. The breath before deciding that a feeling is permanent. These pauses do not guarantee perfect decisions. They create alternatives. Alternatives reduce the sense of being trapped. The knowledge that another response exists can itself be calming. The body may still feel activated, yet the person is not identical to the activation. They can observe it, wait with it, choose around it. This ability is sometimes called metacognition. It means noticing the activity of the mind. A thought is seen as a thought. A feeling is recognized as a changing state. The observer is not entirely separate from the experience, but enough distance appears to create perspective. Perspective can soften emotional intensity. A worry may still be present. It is no longer the entire room. Other details become visible. The sound outside, the weight of the blanket, the fact that the present moment remains safe. Attention can widen gently. There is no need to force it. A narrow mind often opens when the body feels ready. Safety comes first. Then curiosity. Then perhaps a little play. This order reflects deep nervous system priorities. Protection before exploration. Rest before creativity. Enoughness before generosity. When basic needs are neglected, higher goals become harder to sustain. This is not weakness. It is biological organization. A tired person may struggle to feel inspired. A hungry person may struggle to remain patient. A frightened person may struggle to think broadly. Supporting the body can restore capacities that seemed lost. A meal can improve emotional control. Sleep can improve perspective. A quieter space can improve concentration. The mind is not floating above physical life. It is part of it. This simple truth can make self-care more practical. Instead of asking why happiness is absent, the person may ask what conditions are missing. More safety, more rest, more connection, less noise, less pressure. The answer may not be complete. It can still guide the next small adjustment. Tonight, perhaps no adjustment is needed. The room may already be quiet enough. The body may already be still enough. The words may already be distant enough. You can let the details blend together. There's no need to carry every idea forward. Some can disappear as soon as they are heard. Others may remain as a soft impression. That happiness is not always bright. That rest is not wasted. That change can be slow and still be real. That being unfinished does not make this moment incomplete. The night continues without measuring progress. It does not ask whether you listened well. It simply grows deeper. The body grows heavier. The mind becomes less interested in holding clear shapes. And the quiet science of happiness can remain nearby, fading gently into the background. As the night grows quieter, there is less and less that needs to be understood. Happiness is not always a bright feeling that announces itself. Sometimes, it is only the gentle absence of urgency. It can be the warmth beneath the blanket, the familiar shape of a dark room, the knowledge that nothing more is required from this day. The mind may continue producing a few unfinished thoughts. They do not need to be answered. They can pass like distant lights beyond a window, visible for a moment and then gone. There is no need to hold on to every detail. The facts have already traveled far enough. They can settle quietly into the background, where memory and sleep will decide what remains. Perhaps happiness is not something that must always be found. Perhaps it sometimes appears when the search becomes still, when the body feels safe enough to soften, when attention no longer needs to reach toward the next thing. The world will continue beyond this room. Morning will come in its own time. Light will return gradually, touching roofs, trees, streets, and quiet windows. But morning does not need you yet. For now, the darkness is enough. The bed is enough. This slow breath is enough. Your body already knows how to move towards sleep. Muscles can release their effort without instruction. Breathing can find a quieter rhythm. The mind can become less precise, allowing words to dissolve into faint images and distant feelings. Nothing important will be lost by resting. Tomorrow's thoughts can wait for tomorrow's mind. The mind that wakes will be different from the one listening now. It may be clearer, it may be softer, it may simply be more rested. There's no need to force that change. Sleep can arrive in its own way. It may come slowly, through long drifting thoughts. It may come quietly, between one sentence and the next. You do not need to notice the exact moment. The night can carry you across it. All the small systems within you can continue their hidden work. Memories can settle. Emotions can soften. The body can repair what the day has used. You can let go of the need to supervise any of it. There's nothing more you need to follow. Nothing more you need to remember. The quiet science of happiness can remain here without explanation. A sense of safety, a little warmth, a gentle connection with the living world. These things do not need to become larger. They are already enough for this moment. The room can stay quiet. The night can stay wide. The story can fade until only its rhythm remains. And if even that rhythm disappears, nothing needs to replace it. There can simply be silence. Soft, ordinary sounds. The kind that asks nothing. The kind that holds the darkness without fear. The kind that lets the body become heavy and still. Tomorrow can begin later. The unfinished world can wait. For now, there is only rest. Only the slow movement of breathing. Only the quiet night continuing around you. There's nothing more you need to follow. The world can keep turning softly in the background, and you can simply sleep.